I had eagerly awaited Friday night all week long. It had been over 6 months since my breakup with my girlfriend, and I hadn't had a chance to enjoy a night out since then. It felt like the right time to unwind and relax, especially after pouring all my energy into distracting myself from the past relationship. When I suggested a night out to my closest friends, Bill and Sam, they were enthusiastic. We settled on the Reverie, a charming new bar in the city known for its decent reviews and live jazz bands on Friday nights. The thought of sipping an old-fashioned while enjoying some live music was enticing. Arriving at 10:30, I was pleasantly surprised to find the Reverie less crowded than expected. The soothing ambiance with dim lighting and the band playing Coltrane's My Favorite Things immediately put me at ease. After ordering drinks at the bar, we scanned for a table. Spotting 3 ladies seated together, an unspoken agreement passed among us. With a smile, I approached them. "Good evening, ladies. Mind if we join you?" I introduced my friends and myself as we settled down. "I'm Tara. She's Barbara. And that's Deborah." Although the 3 were quite attractive, it was Deborah who mesmerized me. She had raven black hair, immaculate skin, but it was her eyes. A pool of blue that mixed with other hues unlike anything I had seen before. As the night unfolded, Tara and Barbara hit it off with Bill and Sam, engrossed in their conversations. However, my interaction with Deborah felt enigmatic. Her responses to simple questions remained vague, leaving me intrigued. Suddenly, Deborah leaned in and whispered an invitation that piqued my curiosity. "I want you to come with me. There's a cabin not far from here. Let's all go." Despite its oddity, I was drawn to the adventure it promised. Sharing the proposal with my friends, we embarked on a journey into the unknown. We all managed to fit into my car. Tara sat on Bill's lap, and the 4 of them giggled as Sam whispered some silly joke I couldn't quite make out. "So, Deborah, where's this cabin of yours?" I asked. "Just take the road out of the city. I'll give you directions as we go." About 30 minutes later, we were on a desolate back road. For some reason, I was starting to feel uneasy. Deborah, are you sure you know where you're going?" She didn't answer, but her demeanor was unsettling. She was sitting forward, but her head was turned, staring at me, expressionless. Her large blue eyes seemingly devoid of life. She was like an eerie lifelike doll. "Deborah?" I pressed. "Turn here now." "Here? But there's no road." "Turn," she said firmly. I made a right off the road into a small ditch. The ride suddenly got very bumpy as I slowly continued off the path. The 2 couples behind me were having the time of their lives, laughing, whispering, and giggling, completely detached to what I was experiencing up front. The narrow path was dark, only lit by the headlights. Tall trees on both sides of the road made everything darker. We continued for about 15 minutes when finally Deborah said, "We're here." And sure enough, up ahead, seemingly out of nowhere, there was a small wooden cabin hidden among the trees. I must admit I was relieved that we arrived. "Tell your friends to go away. I only want you to come inside." Her blue eyes consumed me. It was like she hypnotized me. I didn't question her request. "Guys, I'm gonna go in with Deborah for a bit. You wait here." The 4 of them barely paid attention as Bill and Tara laid on the trunk looking up at the night sky, and Sam and Barbara looked like teenagers in love, slowly walking into the woods, the trees swallowing them whole. Deborah held my hand and led me inside the cabin. My eyes took a minute to adjust, but it was oddly brighter than it should have been. The place was completely empty except for a small couch in the center. "Is this place yours?" I asked. She sat me down, stood in front of me, and slowly began to raise her arms. As she did so, I began to hear music, but it was a melody I had never heard before. Where was the sound coming from, I thought? There was no power here. Deborah began to dance, strange rhythm in unison to the music. The volume got louder as she raised her arms. It was almost deafening. Then she began to step back slowly. She stopped at the far side of the cabin, back against the wall, almost swallowed by the dark. She didn't move. "Deborah? You okay?" There was a tremor in my voice, but she probably couldn't hear as the strange music muted every other sound. She stood still for another moment, and then something began to happen to her. She pulled her hair off. I wasn't sure what I was seeing. Deborah removed the wig, revealing a completely bald head with pale, yellowish skin and dark spots that looked like bruises scattered across the top of her scalp. There were cuts, like ulcers, above her ears. Deborah then began to expand, to grow taller, her legs stretching as her head almost touched the ceiling. Her elongated arms dangled as her nails scraped the floor. Then the being slowly began to walk toward me. I jolted out of the sofa and ran to the door. I tried to open it, but it was locked. I looked over my shoulder, and it was closer now. I banged the door, screaming, hoping that any of the four outside would hear. With one last effort, I bashed the door with my shoulder, and it gave way. I almost fell as I darted out, yelling, "Get in the car now!" Bill, Sam, Barbara, and Tara must have seen the horror on my face because they didn't say a word and just did what I said. We all got in quickly. I floored the gas and sped away from the cabin. I looked at my rearview mirror but only saw the door of the cabin agape, like the mouth of a hungry predator. "What's happening, Alec?" Sam's face was pale. I didn't say a word, driving like a maniac through the narrow path, desperately seeking to find the road. After what seemed like an eternity, we were back on the road and shortly after on the main highway. Once we made it to the city, I parked the car and told them what had happened. "Who is she, Barbara? Tara? What kind of friends do you keep?" I said. "She's not our friend, Alec," Barbara responded. "Tara and I were alone when she approached us asking if she could join us. She did seem a bit strange, but we didn't see any harm in it. About 20 minutes later, you arrived." I had no words. After dropping everyone off, I just wanted to be home, to forget everything I had seen. Some time has passed since that horrific night, and no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to forget those blue eyes, the ones with hues that hid something ancient that dwelled in a forgotten cabin in the woods.